The following program is brought to you by Tiger Media Net. That program being, It Came From the DVD Collection.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is John Billinger and this is...
I'm Connor Keating.
Yes, and today we welcome our special guest host, possibly for the last time, Aidan Hammond. Aren't you gonna say, hey, woo?
I thought it'd be very fun if I just didn't say anything, just left you guys to stew in it, but whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm also here as well.
Yes, and today's movie that we are covering is Lake Michigan Monster from 2018. Yep.
The Lake Michigan.
No, it's Lake Michigan Monster.
This is
really?
our
Yeah.
Thanksgiving movie because for some reason nothing's more evocative of Thanksgiving
Then Milwaukee.
than Milwaukee for some reason. Well, I'll let you take it away, Connor.
Well, I guess we should
I
start.
really don't know where to.
Yeah, I guess where we start, where I found out about this movie, there's a YouTuber who, by the name of Shay Frillis. He mostly does animated movies and stuff like that. And sometimes, but this video was one that he did where basically his friend showed him this weird movie, this weird monster-themed comedy about a ship captain who's not a ship captain, who takes a bunch of people out to hunt this Lake Michigan monster. And you know, this guy was like raving about how great this movie was. So I watched it on Amazon Prime and fell in love with the movie. And then so I bought the Blu-ray, I think it is, from Arrow Video. And now I have forced both of these individuals to watch one of the greatest films of all time. Should I get into the plot? Or
Yeah. So, Aiden, what are your general thoughts on it?
On the movie itself, I honestly liked it. It was a good blend of comedy and, like, obviously not a movie you're supposed to take seriously, but still had a relatively consistent plot, I guess.
I didn't really like it that much.
We could tell.
I'm sorry.
He doesn't get it.
He just didn't get
He
it.
doesn't get it.
Ice cream sandwiches.
Ice cream.
I just didn't think it was that funny or that great. I don't know. You see, it's a comedy,
Yeah.
and in terms of B-movie comedies, I think Lost Skeleton and Cadabra was better because that one played it more subtle.
Yeah, I will give you that. I think I do prefer Lost Skeleton over this movie. Now I should probably get into
like they weren't screaming about science or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like science.
They were screaming about monsters.
Well, how about we'll let Connor
Yeah, sure.
take it away with the plot.
Should we let Aidan try and give us a plot? You know what? I kind of want to see that just because since this is probably going to be your last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a plot synopsis for Lake Michigan Monster? And I'll try to fill in any gaps.
All right, so Lake Michigan Monster takes place in, you guessed it, Michigan. So this boat captain, but not a boat captain, his father was slain by a monster, a lake monster, a while ago. So as he grew up with his brother, he sought to avenge his father. He tracked the lake monster down to the same lake where he and his dad went fishing, and the monster killed his father.
Took away and killed him.
Yes. So this captain, not a captain, hires a team of specialists in order to conduct various operations to try and find and slay this monster in order to avenge his father. You have... would you like to introduce the characters?
So our protagonist is Captain Seafield. He is our eccentric leader. Then you have Sean Shaughnessy, our weapons expert. Mr. Dick Flynn, who is a former Navy man, and Nedge Pepsi, who is our sonar operator. And together they
Sonar 2000. If I'm not
the
mistaken.
Sonar 2000 operator, and together they form our cast of characters who set out to slay the Lake Michigan monster.
Yep.
Yeah, and things go from crazy to crazier as the film goes along.
More plot details are revealed, such as this ship captain does not...
Do not spoil the ending, by the way. the twist ending.
I mean, yeah, well, sure, whatever. He
It's
lives.
a letdown anyway.
He lives in a museum. He does not have a house. He doesn't really even have a boat.
It's pronounced pontoon.
Pontoon, and he has no money. And he lives with and he is married to a
Very old lady.
to a very old lady, and he lives in a museum.
Mm-hmm. And he has a brother. What's his name?
Who paints landscape portraits
Ashcroft.
James, yeah.
Ashcroft.
and
Yes.
lost an eye. Did we ever find out how he lost?
Yes,
the
that
eye?
was to his dad.
Oh yeah.
That's like one of the best lines in the movie. you know our father. He said, if any of you throw up on the deck, he said, I will take this harpoon and I will put it in your face. Well, then you got sick that day. And yeah, and then Ashcroft's like rubbing his eye patch. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and John absolutely hates this movie.
I don't hate the movie. I just was just like, I don't know. It was just like they were all screaming their lines and everything like that, and
But loud equals funny.
That does sometimes equal funny.
not always.
Not always, but
Not always. And just for me in this case, it just didn't really do much.
just
for
did
me.
not land.
No, I just, no. I thought it was trying too hard to be bad.
Really?
If that makes sense. It was like bad as in like it's trying to be cheesy and all that. I thought
Like,
it was.
do you think it was too parody?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that's
too
kind of the
parody.
interesting thing because I think the interesting thing about Lake Michigan Monster is that it has this setup of being a monster movie, but it really doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't do tropes and jokes around that sort of thing. It's more doing its own thing. It's got its own jokes that it does it for itself essentially. It's not I don't know, it's not like making fun of the genre or anything. It just kind of uses the genre as a vessel.
It's its own independent thing somehow.
It's doing its own thing.
It doesn't make fun of the genre, nor does it adhere to it. It makes its own things. I wouldn't even really say it pays homage.
I think the
I wouldn't
best
even say
way
that.
to describe this movie is it's like Apache the Pirate segment.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's probably the best
enough.
way to look at this movie is that it's a big Apache the Pirate segment.
Patchy the Pirate was better.
Whatever. Seafield has ice cream sandwiches.
That line, absolutely. So I guess we should get started that.
The acting.
So yeah, like halfway through the movie,
Oh.
it turns out, the captain can't pay the crew, and this is after an unfortunate accident. But the crew finds out, hey, this captain is a fraud. He can't pay us, so we're just gonna go golfing for some reason. So he goes golfing, they go golfing, and then he tries to track them
Seafield's
down.
stalking them, and he tries to win them over with ice cream sandwiches. But unfortunately, through an odd set of circumstances, he killed Dick Flynn's unborn child.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess John just did not find that type of thing funny.
Which
I guess
is saying it like that makes it understandable why, but in context, it is pretty funny.
Yeah.
just the way it presented itself.
Really? I think it's like
Did you want it to take itself seriously?
Well, I don't know. I had no idea what to expect.
I really
from this
did not
because
tell you
you didn't tell
anything
us
about the
anything
film.
about the movie, so I had
I think
no
that's-
expectation
I
at
think
all.
that's kind of the best way to go into this movie. All I did was send Aidan the one GIF I could find of this movie on Discord of Sean throwing some knives into Seafield's butt.
Yeah.
I didn't even get that. I didn't get anything.
You didn't get anything.
No.
I mean, I kind of told you that this is a comedy. I think at some point maybe.
You said it was something like Lost Skeleton of Cadaver,
Yeah.
so I had in mind something like that.
Yeah, I mean, tonally, or like comedic tone wise, not really. They have very different sort of senses of humor. But
Yeah. So let's get into the acting next.
well, this is an indie film, of course, and also, because of that, they didn't have much of a budget, and so they had no audio equipment. So the entire film is ADR.
So basically, man, it was the hands of fate, right?
Yeah. So, which I think kind of adds to the charm of it being, like an old monster movie with where the mouth movements isn't quite lining up. I think they do a fine enough job, but yeah, and I think the delivery for most of the lines are pretty solid.
I mean, they're meant to be comedic, and the actors, I would say,
I think
embrace that
Nedge
role.
Pepsi is probably like, of the main cast, is probably the one that's like, eh.
Yeah.
But she's not like, I don't know. She's like, she's almost like playing the straight man through the whole movie. She doesn't have too many,
I would say everyone is a straight man at some point.
except for Seafield.
Yeah, everyone is the straight man except for Seafield. Like, when that man brought a thing of that checkers scene. So
the waiting game, checkers.
my favorite game, checkers.
And that kind of gets me to another one of the parts of the humor that I really like is how they'll do most jokes twice, and they never do it more than twice. Most jokes. So like, you know, you have that scene where he's like, "Why would I bring checkers if not to play checkers?" And then like later in the movie, there's this funny scene where I'm not going to explain how this comes to be, but he's playing checkers with a ghost while there's an army of ghosts fighting the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're just casually playing checkers. The ghost is terrible at it. He's like, you know, you're not very good at this, Mr. Ghost. Meanwhile, there's this epic battle going on underwater between the monster and the ghost army. And then, yeah.
How about the effects?
The effects... entirely done in After Effects, by the way.
I wonder what Schleicher would think of that one.
Yeah, well, because most of the movie is done, you know, on location on the shores of Lake Michigan. But then you have like these crazy scenes as the film goes along, where it's it's pretty clear that it's done green screen or, you know, on a...
I mean, like, the entire, like, last
the entire
third of the movie.
Yeah, the entire climax of the movie.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know, it gives it an interesting charm when you've got a PNG of an anglerfish that comes up and eats another fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of one of the interesting things when comparing this movie to Lost Skeleton is fairly dry in its presentation, and that's not a knock against it, right? It's just trying to be like, you know, an old monster movie. But Lake Michigan Monster is very like I don't know, a little artsy fartsy, where it's like it's very weird. Like, wouldn't you at least agree here, John, that like, I don't know, it has an interesting look, and kind of like that last third is just like, I don't know, it's just very, like, unique looking.
I suppose, yeah, but...
Do you have any compliments for this film?
Well, it was definitely a movie that was released.
That is not a compliment.
Wow.
I'm sorry, it just didn't do much for me.
So you have nothing to say about Lake Michigan Monster?
It was a movie that I watched last night. That's the only... I'm just indifferent. I just have nothing bad to say.
You have nothing to say about
Just nothing to say.
Well,
So, I got a question, if I may ask. How much of this, like, obviously this movie didn't have the largest budget.
No.
How much of that budget do you think was spent on, like, props? Like, the sword specifically. You know the sword I'm talking about.
Probably most of the budget. Which the sword, by the way, was lost for a period of time.
The family heirloom.
Yeah, the family heirloom was lost for a period of time on set. And then one day, one of the crew members just came up, pulled it out of the water. Like, you know, the director describes the scene where he, like, sees one of the crew members, you know, pulling this thing above his head.
But yes, that... all the budget, like, spent on costumes, spent on
the monster.
Spent on the monster, yes.
What a spectacular monster design.
Like, realistically, actually, most of that I would say is maybe cardboard, paper mache, things like that.
It's probably mostly paper mache, things like that.
I would,
paint.
honest to God, say most of the budget was either spent on filming locations or weapons.
I don't even think filming locations. I think they literally went to a public beach. Well, I guess the museum maybe.
All right, the budget was $7,000.
Yeah, that's higher than I expected. Honestly,
I can get you like a one semester of college education.
Because I think the director said that this film took a lot of favors to make, you know, just owing people favors.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah,
cashing in favors, owing people favors later. So yeah, And yeah.
Well, I don't really have much else to say, and we're trying to keep it fast because Aidan has to go to a meeting right after
A meeting
this.
that he's trying to get out of.
Do not say that on the air. On the off chance one of them is listening to this.
I doubt it.
So anyway, Connor, what rating would you give this movie out of
I would
10?
give this film an 8 out of 10. I would not give it the 9 that I give Lost Skeleton, but I think overall, Lake Michigan Monster, fun, quotable time. Yeah, just a fun little indie movie.
And Aidan, what would you give this movie?
I think I would give this movie 6 out of 10 family heirlooms.
I'm going to give it, let's say 5 out of 10.
We beat Land Unknown,
Well, anything can beat Land Unknown.
except Godzilla vs. Destroyer.
That film's fine.
I would rather watch Lake Michigan Monster than Destroyer.
All right, well, thank you, Connor, for coming here. The next movie that we will be covering is... What is the next movie?
Shin Ultraman. We're
Shin Ultraman.
finally getting this guy to watch Ultraman.
Because Connor's been wanting to watch Ultraman for the longest time.
I can't wait for it to be another movie where he has nothing to say.
Great. Well, anything else to say, Aidan?
Thank you guys for having me. This has honestly been pretty fun.
Anything else to say, Connor?
We're gonna force John to watch Lake Michigan Monster a second time later.
The sequel. All right, well.
Ocean Michigan Monster.
The sequel's called Hundreds of Beavers.
Hundreds of Beavers. Okay. Well, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
It Came From the DVD Collection was hosted and produced by John Billinger and Connor Keating. Special guest star for the episode was Aidan Hammond. The movie covered, Lake Michigan Monster, is a property of Arrow Films. This has been a Tiger Media Net production.